Ladies and gentlemen, there is no greater battlefield than the one within the mind. It is where dreams are born and where fears are fed. It is where confidence is built and where doubt is planted. If you want to change your life, change your mind. And to do that, you must first learn how to control your mind before it controls you. In a world full of distractions, noise, opinions, fears, and temptations, mental discipline is the superpower of the 21st century. But here's the truth. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your most powerful ally. If you learn to lead it instead of letting it lead you. The first and most essential step in learning how to control your mind is awareness. You cannot change what you're not conscious of. Most people go through life without realizing how much their thoughts dictate their emotions, their decisions, and ultimately their destiny. They let the mind wander, ramble, and react, never taking a step back to ask, where is this thought taking me? Is this thought even mine? Becoming aware of your thoughts is like turning on the lights in a dark room. Suddenly you see the clutter you didn't even know existed, the fears hiding in the corners, the doubts creeping along the edges, and the dreams covered in dust. Awareness is the act of observing your mental activity without judgment. It means taking a pause and noticing what your mind is saying. Every day, your brain produces tens of thousands of thoughts. Some are neutral, some are helpful, and many are destructive. But until you recognize those destructive patterns, they will continue to control your mood, your habits, and your outcomes. When you're not aware, your mind controls you. It pulls you into anxiety, anger, insecurity, or distraction without your permission. But the moment you become aware of a thought, you gain the power to redirect it. This process starts with mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't require incense, chants, or a yoga mat. It simply means paying attention. When you wake up in the morning, notice the first thought that pops into your head. Is it a complaint, a worry, a regret? When you catch yourself procrastinating, ask what thought led you there. Was it fear of failure? Was it a belief that you're not good enough? These seemingly small observations are monumental because they move you from unconscious reaction to conscious awareness. Once you become aware, you start seeing patterns. You'll begin to notice how often your mind spirals into fear, how quickly it jumps to judgment, or how frequently it revisits past mistakes. You might see that your mind tends to assume the worst or expects things to go wrong before they even start. Awareness gives you the opportunity to challenge these patterns. It lets you say, hold on, this thought is just a habit. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to act on it. That's a powerful shift. It's not about pretending negative thoughts don't exist. It's about not giving them control. Becoming aware also means noticing how your environment influences your thinking. Who you listen to, what you watch, and what you read all plant seeds in your mind. If your social media feed is filled with negativity, comparison, or fear, your mind will absorb that energy. If you're constantly around people who complain or doubt, your own thoughts will begin to reflect that. Awareness helps you recognize these external inputs so you can choose better influences. When you're aware, you're no longer a passive receiver of mental programming. You become the gatekeeper. Another aspect of awareness is observing your self-talk. The way you speak to yourself in your head has more power than the words of others. Are you kind to yourself, or do you beat yourself up? Do you encourage yourself, or do you criticize every mistake? Many people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. Awareness allows you to hear your inner voice clearly and decide whether it's a voice that builds you up or breaks you down. Awareness also opens the door to emotional intelligence. Often, we confuse thoughts with emotions. You might say, I feel like I'm not good enough, but that's not a feeling, that's a thought. The actual feeling may be shame, sadness, or fear. When you become aware of your internal experience, you can begin to separate thoughts from emotions. This clarity helps you deal with your emotions more effectively rather than getting caught in a loop of negative thinking. Developing awareness takes practice. At first, it might feel awkward or unnatural to step back and observe your mind. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. One effective way to build this habit is journaling. Write down your thoughts each day, especially during moments of stress or decision. When you see your thoughts on paper, they lose their power to control you. You can analyze them, reframe them, and understand where they're coming from. Meditation is another powerful tool. Sitting quietly, even for 5 minutes a day, trains you to notice your thoughts without getting caught in them. With awareness comes responsibility. Once you know your thought patterns, you can no longer blame your mind for your choices. You must take ownership. If you know that your mind tends to fall into fear before every big opportunity, then you have a choice to make. Do you follow the fear or do you challenge it? Do you let your mind sabotage your growth or do you take control and move forward anyway? The truth is, the mind is not your enemy. It's a tool, one of the most powerful tools you possess. But like any tool, it must be used wisely. A knife can feed you or hurt you. Fire can warm you or burn you. Your mind can create or destroy. Awareness is the handle that allows you to use your mind instead of letting it use you. In the end, control begins not with force, but with observation. You don't overpower your mind with willpower. You lead it with awareness. You guide it with understanding. You train it through repetition. And you transform it through presence. Control is not suppression. It's not about pushing thoughts away. It's about seeing them clearly and choosing which ones deserve your energy. It's about becoming the observer, the leader, and finally the master of your mental world. When you master awareness, you master your mind. And when you master your mind, you master your life. One of the most powerful steps you can take in controlling your mind is learning how to challenge the inner narrative that plays inside your head. Every single person lives with a story they've been telling themselves for years. This story is made up of experiences, beliefs, fears, and external opinions that have slowly formed a script, and often this script runs on autopilot. It tells you what you can and cannot do, who you are and aren't, and what you're worthy of. The problem is that many of these stories are not true. They're distorted by pain, failure, rejection, or conditioning. Yet they feel real, and because they feel real, they influence every part of your life, your confidence, your relationships, your goals, your actions. If you want to control your mind, you must start by challenging the narrative. So many people walk through life with limiting beliefs. They think, I'm not smart enough, I always mess things up, success isn't for people like me, or I'm just not meant to be happy. These thoughts are not facts. They're opinions formed through experiences, and often they were absorbed when you were too young or too vulnerable to question them. Maybe you failed once and your mind recorded that moment as a permanent truth. Maybe someone said something hurtful to you, and instead of rejecting it, your mind embraced it. Over time, that thought repeats and becomes a belief. Then the belief becomes your reality, and your actions begin to reflect the story you tell yourself. But here's the truth. Every belief you have can be questioned, rewritten, and replaced. Your mind is not made of stone. It's more like clay. It can be reshaped, but only if you realize that you are the potter, not the sculpture. Every time you notice a limiting thought, don't just accept it. Pause and ask yourself, is this thought absolutely true? Can I prove it without a doubt? Where did this thought come from? Did I choose it or did I inherit it? Is this thought helping me or is it holding me back? By simply asking these questions, you create space between yourself and your thoughts. That space is where freedom begins. The moment you realize that your thoughts are not facts, you begin to take back control. You start to see that your mind is simply trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe based on past experiences, but protection isn't always progress. Sometimes your mind tries to avoid risk, failure, or embarrassment because it associates those things with pain, but growth lives in those exact places. If you never challenge the inner narrative, you will always be stuck in the same cycle, repeating the same thoughts, making the same choices, and wondering why things don't change. It's important to understand that challenging your thoughts doesn't mean pretending that everything is perfect or blindly affirming things you don't believe. It means becoming objective. It means becoming the detective of your own mind, collecting evidence, finding patterns, and reprogramming what doesn't serve you. For example, if your mind says, I'm not good at public speaking, instead of saying, that's just who I am, dig deeper. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Did one bad experience define this belief? What would happen if I practiced? What if I could improve? Suddenly, the fixed belief becomes flexible. You open a window for possibility. You shift from limitation to growth. Another effective way to rewrite your narrative is to speak to yourself with intention. Most people don't realize how powerful their inner voice is. It sets the tone for your entire day. The way you speak to yourself becomes your mental environment. If your internal dialogue is filled with self-doubt, criticism, and fear, your life will reflect that negativity. But if your self-talk is built on truth, encouragement, and resilience, your behavior will change accordingly. Words create reality. Even if it feels unnatural at first, start using empowering language. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of, I always fail, try, I'm getting stronger with each attempt. These small shifts have massive ripple effects. You're not lying to yourself, you're giving yourself a new lens to see your potential. Also realize that changing your mental narrative doesn't happen overnight. Your current beliefs were built over years, sometimes decades, so reshaping them takes consistency and patience. It's like going to the gym. One workout won't change your body, but consistent effort over time will. Likewise, questioning and replacing negative thoughts on a regular basis will slowly rewire your mind. Neuroscience backs this up. The brain is incredibly adaptable. It forms new neural pathways through repetition and intention. So each time you challenge a toxic belief and replace it with something true and empowering, you strengthen that new pathway. Over time, the new narrative becomes your default. Another powerful practice is visualizing who you want to become. The mind responds strongly to images. If you constantly replay your failures, your brain strengthens fear and hesitation. But if you regularly imagine yourself succeeding, speaking confidently, staying calm under pressure, or reaching your goals, your brain starts to believe it's possible. Visualization helps reshape the mental script from "I can't" to "I'm becoming." Lastly, surround yourself with people and content that reinforce the new narrative you're creating. You can't grow into a new mindset while staying immersed in environments that validate your old limitations. Read books that empower you, watch content that lifts you, follow people who think in the direction you want to grow. Your mind absorbs everything it's exposed to, so make sure what you consume aligns with the person you're becoming, not the person you're trying to escape. Controlling your mind begins with reclaiming authorship over your story. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the narrator. You get to decide how the next chapter unfolds. You are not stuck. You are evolving. And every time you challenge a lie you've believed for too long, you give yourself permission to rise. So start today. Question the narrative. Rewrite the story. And watch how your entire world begins to transform. Controlling your mind is not just about changing your thoughts. It's also about mastering your emotions. Emotions are powerful. They can drive us to achieve greatness or drag us down into despair. They can create clarity or chaos. They can lift us or crush us. The key to mental control lies in learning how to feel emotions fully without letting them control your actions. Emotional discipline is not about being emotionless, it's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It means understanding what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and choosing a response rather than reacting blindly. Most people are prisoners of their emotions. When something goes wrong, they explode with anger. When someone criticizes them, they spiral into insecurity. When faced with difficulty, they collapse into fear. They allow external events to dictate their internal world. But true power lies in the ability to stay saner regardless of what's happening outside of you. Life is unpredictable. You will face disappointment, rejection, betrayal, stress, and failure. These are inevitable, but your reaction is always your choice. The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not the presence or absence of emotion. It's how they respond to it. Think of your mind as the captain of a ship, and your emotions as the ocean. Sometimes the waters are calm, sometimes storms rage. But if the captain panics, the ship will drift, sink, or crash. If the captain stays composed, adjusts the sails, and steers with wisdom, the ship will endure. That is emotional discipline. It's the ability to maintain control of your mental ship even when the sea is stormy. Start by identifying your emotional triggers. What sets you off? Is it criticism, feeling ignored, facing uncertainty? The first step to managing your emotions is recognizing what provokes them. Once you're aware of your triggers, you can start to build space between stimulus and response. That space is where emotional intelligence lives. Instead of reacting in the moment, you pause, you breathe, you reflect. You ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? What's the most constructive response? This pause gives you back your power. It's important to understand that emotions themselves are not bad. Anger, sadness, frustration, fear. These are all part of the human experience. The problem isn't the emotion, it's the reaction. For example, feeling anger is natural when someone treats you unfairly, but yelling, blaming, or acting recklessly because of that anger gives your mind away to the emotion. On the other hand, acknowledging the anger, sitting with it, and choosing to respond with clarity and firmness, that's emotional mastery. One of the most misunderstood emotions is fear. Fear is not always the enemy. In fact, fear can be a helpful messenger, warning you of danger or helping you prepare. But when fear becomes chronic, when it paralyzes you from taking action or fuels constant anxiety, it becomes toxic. The disciplined mind acknowledges fear but doesn't bow to it. It examines the fear, understands it, then decides whether to act in spite of it. The presence of fear doesn't mean something is wrong. Often it's a sign that something meaningful is on the other side. Another emotion that often clouds the mind is sadness. When we face loss, failure, or disappointment, sadness can weigh heavily on us. Many people either suppress it or drown in it. Neither approach is healthy. Suppressing emotions only makes them build up internally, eventually exploding in unexpected ways. Dwelling in them too long leads to depression and hopelessness. The balanced approach is to allow yourself to feel the sadness fully without judgment, but then gently guide your thoughts back to what's within your control. Let the sadness pass through you, but don't let it define you. To strengthen emotional discipline, start incorporating daily practices that center you. One of the most effective is deep breathing. When you're overwhelmed, angry, or anxious, your breath becomes shallow and rapid. This signals your brain that you're under threat, triggering a fight or flight response. By taking slow, deep breaths, you signal safety to your brain. This calms your nervous system and allows your rational mind to take back control. It's simple but powerful, and it works every time. Another powerful tool is journaling. When emotions are intense, putting them on paper can be incredibly therapeutic. It gives your feelings form and structure. It helps you process what's going on inside your mind. Instead of bottling emotions or venting recklessly, journaling allows you to reflect and release. Over time, this builds emotional clarity. You begin to recognize emotional patterns, triggers, and healthy responses. Practicing gratitude also builds emotional discipline. When your mind is trained to focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what hurts, negative emotions multiply. But when you consistently direct your focus toward what's good, what you've learned, and what you still have, your emotions begin to balance. Gratitude doesn't erase sadness or anger. It puts them in perspective. It keeps you from sinking into hopelessness. It anchors your mind in truth. Surrounding yourself with emotionally grounded people also helps. If you spend time around people who panic, complain, or explode over small things, their energy rubs off on you. But if you're around people who respond to life with maturity, calm, and perspective, you'll absorb that too. Energy is contagious. Choose your company wisely. Perhaps the most important part of emotional discipline is reminding yourself that you are not your emotions. Just because you feel anger doesn't mean you are an angry person. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you are weak. Just because you feel sadness doesn't mean you are broken. Emotions are temporary. They are messengers, not masters. You can feel them without becoming them. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, to reflect instead of explode, to stay calm when everything around you is chaotic, you gain more control over your mind. You strengthen your emotional core, and over time, you become someone who doesn't just survive storms, you steer through them with grace. Emotional discipline is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about choosing your response even when emotions are high. It's about becoming the kind of person who leads their life from a place of strength, not reaction. The stronger your emotional control, the more powerful your mind becomes. And when your mind is strong, nothing outside of you can shake what's inside of you. Whatever you focus on, you feed. Whatever you give your attention to, you give your energy. And over time, what you focus on shapes your reality. This is one of the greatest truths about the human mind. Focus is the steering wheel of your thoughts, and it determines the direction of your life. Yet most people don't consciously use this power. They let their focus be hijacked by distractions, negativity, worry, and noise. They become reactive instead of intentional. To control your mind, you must master the art of focus. It's not just about productivity or time management. It's about choosing what matters most and directing your mental energy there with purpose. In today's world, attention is the most valuable currency. Every app, notification, headline, and advertisement is fighting for a piece of your focus. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your days scattered, jumping from one thought to another, never really being present, never fully engaging in what matters. This mental fragmentation leads to stress, confusion, and a sense of being overwhelmed. But focus brings clarity. When you train your mind to concentrate on one thing at a time, you quiet the chaos. You create space for depth, creativity, and progress. The power of focus lies in its ability to magnify. Just like a magnifying glass can start a fire when pointed at a single spot long enough, your focused attention can ignite results, breakthroughs, and transformation in any area of your life. Whether it's your career, health, mindset, relationships, or personal goals, what you focus on consistently grows. This is why it's so important to focus not on what's missing or what's wrong, but on what you want to build, who you want to become, and what's within your control. Unfortunately, most people are conditioned to focus on problems. They replay past mistakes. They worry about worst-case scenarios. They fixate on flaws in themselves, in others, in situations. This negative focus drains mental energy and creates a distorted view of reality. It leads to fear, resentment, hopelessness, and inaction. But when you shift your focus to solutions, to lessons, to gratitude, to the next right step, you shift your entire emotional state. You become proactive. You become empowered. You start moving forward. One of the greatest benefits of mastering focus is emotional regulation. When your mind is undisciplined, emotions take control. One small problem can consume your whole day because your focus feeds it. But when your mind is trained, you can zoom out. You can say, this is a moment, not my entire life. You learn to observe a problem without becoming consumed by it. You can redirect your attention to what still works, what you can do, and what matters most. That shift in focus changes your entire experience of reality. A key part of focusing your mind is identifying what you actually want. It sounds simple, but many people go through life focused on avoiding what they don't want instead of moving toward what they do want. They say things like, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be alone, I don't want to fail, but your brain doesn't process negatives very well. It focuses on the subject of the sentence. So if you're already thinking about not being broke, your mind is still focused on being broke. That creates fear and limitation. Instead, reframe your focus. I am working toward financial stability. I am building meaningful relationships. I am growing through every challenge. When your focus is clear and positive, your mind starts working for you, not against you. Another crucial factor in controlling your focus is protecting it from distraction. In a world where attention is constantly being stolen, focus becomes a discipline. You must guard your attention like a sacred resource. That means setting boundaries, turning off notifications, saying no to time-wasting activities, and being intentional with your time. It means creating environments that support your focus, organizing your space, minimizing noise, and building daily routines that reinforce your goals. Practicing presence is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen focus. Presence means being fully engaged in the current moment. When you're eating, just eat. When you're talking to someone, truly listen. When you're working, give it your full attention. Presence eliminates mental multitasking, which is a myth anyway. The brain cannot focus on two things at once. It simply switches back and forth, which creates mental fatigue and reduces effectiveness. When you train yourself to be present, you sharpen your focus and increase the quality of everything you do. Focus is also about consistency. It's not just choosing the right thing to pay attention to, it's choosing it again and again, especially when distractions try to pull you away. It's the ability to say, this matters, I will return my attention here. I will not let the noise pull me off course. This is how goals are achieved. Not through bursts of effort, but through sustained focus. When you make your priorities non-negotiable, when you show up for them daily, your life begins to align. Visualization is a powerful technique to enhance focus. When you vividly picture your goals, your brain starts wiring itself toward that vision. Athletes use this, performers use this, leaders use this. When you imagine yourself succeeding, seeing the details, feeling the emotions, repeating the image, you train your mind to stay locked on the outcome. It becomes easier to focus when your brain has already rehearsed success. Mindfulness and meditation are also effective tools. Just sitting quietly, noticing your breath, and gently guiding your mind back every time it wanders builds mental strength. It's like going to the gym for your brain. Over time, your ability to focus sharpens. You become less reactive. You gain greater control over your thoughts. Most importantly, understand that your focus is your choice. You may not control what happens around you, but you always control where you place your attention. That choice is the foundation of mental mastery. Every time you choose to focus on growth instead of fear, on solutions instead of problems, on gratitude instead of frustration, you reclaim your power. Your mind is not a runaway train. It is a vehicle, and you are the driver. Master your focus, and you master your mind. Master your mind, and you unlock the full potential of your life. Feeding your mind is just as essential as feeding your body. Just like your physical health depends on the food you consume, your mental and emotional health depends on the content you allow into your mind. Most people don't realize how much their thoughts, beliefs, moods, and even behaviors are influenced by what they constantly absorb. Every word you read, every video you watch, every conversation you engage in, it's all feeding your mind something. And over time, it adds up. If you feed your mind negativity, fear, drama, and distraction, don't be surprised if you feel anxious, uninspired, or stuck. But if you feed your mind positivity, truth, wisdom, and inspiration, you will begin to think differently, feel stronger, and act with more purpose. Your mind is incredibly impressionable. It is constantly adapting, rewiring, and responding to what you expose it to. And the brain doesn't distinguish between what's helpful and what's harmful. It simply absorbs what's repeated. If you listen to criticism and chaos daily, your mind begins to normalize self-doubt and fear. If you fill your mind with gossip, complaining, and negativity, it becomes the lens through which you see the world. But the opposite is also true. If you flood your mind with empowering content, growth-oriented ideas, meaningful conversations, and solutions, it starts to reflect that internally. You begin to see the world with more clarity, handle problems with more maturity, and face life with more courage. Many people wonder why they feel mentally exhausted, unfocused, or unmotivated. The answer is often simple. Their mental diet is unhealthy. Just as junk food leaves your body tired and sluggish, junk content leaves your mind dull and anxious. It's not just about social media or entertainment, although those play a major role. It's also about the kind of people you spend time with, the way you talk to yourself, the thoughts you rehearse, and the stories you consume. Everything is input, and every input affects your internal output. If you want a clear, focused, strong, and disciplined mind, you must be intentional about what you're feeding it. Begin by auditing your mental environment. Take a step back and look at what you consume daily. What kind of media do you watch or listen to? Is it filled with drama, conflict, fear, or superficiality? Or does it inspire growth, learning, and reflection? Who are the people you talk to most? Do they lift you up or drain you? Are your conversations meaningful, or are they filled with complaints and gossip? Even the books you read, the podcasts you follow, and the music you listen to, all of it matters. The brain is like a sponge. It soaks in everything, and what you soak in will eventually leak out in how you think, feel, and live. The next step is to make intentional shifts. Choose to fill your mind with content that aligns with the person you want to become. If you want to be more disciplined, read books on self-mastery. If you want to be more confident, listen to motivational talks or interviews with people who overcame fear. If you want to be mentally stronger, study the lives of people who endured and thrived through adversity. The internet has made wisdom more accessible than ever before, but it's up to you to choose what you consume. Just like a healthy meal doesn't just show up, you have to cook or buy it. Nourishing content doesn't find you. You must search for it, prioritize it, and absorb it daily. One of the most powerful ways to feed your mind is through reading. Books give you access to the thoughts of the greatest minds across history. They allow you to learn from others' mistakes, gain new perspectives, and find clarity in your own path. Even 10-15 minutes of reading each day can compound into incredible growth over time. If reading is difficult, start small. Choose books that truly interest you. Highlight key lessons. Reflect on how you can apply them. Treat books as tools for your transformation. Another powerful mental meal is silence. In a world addicted to noise, stillness is nourishment. Spend time each day disconnected from distractions. No phone, no TV, no conversation. Just you and your thoughts. Sit in silence, breathe deeply, and listen to what your mind is saying. Often, the most important insights come not from external input, but from internal reflection. When you clear away the noise, you make room for intuition, clarity, and peace. Affirmations and journaling are also powerful tools to feed your mind. Affirmations help rewire negative beliefs. They remind your brain what you want to believe and become. Start each day by repeating powerful, truthful statements about yourself. I am focused and capable. I can handle whatever today brings. I am becoming the best version of myself. Over time, your brain begins to accept and reflect these statements. Journaling, on the other hand, allows you to process emotions, gain self-awareness, and direct your focus. Write about what you're grateful for. Reflect on your goals. Express your thoughts honestly. It's not about writing beautifully, it's about thinking clearly. Surrounding yourself with the right people is another essential part of feeding your mind. People are mental inputs too. Their energy, language, mindset, and values affect yours more than you realize. If you want to grow, spend time around people who challenge you, support you, and push you to be better. Seek conversations that spark ideas, Avoid people who are addicted to complaining, blaming, or staying stuck. You become like the environment you're in, so build one that feeds your potential. Music, art, and nature can also nourish the mind. Listen to music that uplifts or calms you. Spend time in nature to reset your nervous system. Watch films or art that expand your understanding of life. Mental nourishment is not always logical or structured. Sometimes it's emotional, spiritual, or visual. Be open to all forms of soul food. At the end of the day, mental strength doesn't come from forcing positive thoughts or pretending everything is okay. It comes from feeding your mind what it truly needs: truth, perspective, inspiration, and peace. You cannot expect to think clearly if your mind is overwhelmed with noise. You cannot expect to grow if you're constantly feeding yourself garbage. Be ruthless about what you allow into your mental space. Protect it, prioritize it, nurture it. Your mind is the foundation of your life. Everything starts there: your thoughts, your actions, your choices, your future. Feed it with care, and it will carry you forward with power. Ignore it, and it will drift into confusion. The choice is always yours. What you feed your mind today determines the life you create tomorrow. Choose wisely, choose powerfully, choose intentionally. You are not your mind. You are the one observing it. This realization is one of the most powerful steps toward true self-mastery. Most people live their lives as if they are their thoughts, completely consumed by the constant chatter of their minds. But once you understand that your mind is a tool, a powerful servant, not the master, you reclaim your authority. You begin to lead rather than be led. You begin to act with intention instead of reacting from impulse. And this shift changes everything. Controlling your mind starts with remembering, again and again, that you are in charge. Your mind is a brilliant machine, capable of analyzing, imagining, predicting, and creating. It stores experiences, recalls memories, and runs countless processes all day. But just like a computer, it runs based on programming. If your mind is left unchecked, it will operate on outdated, fear-based, or reactive software. It will replay old fears, enforce false beliefs, and jump to irrational conclusions. But here's the truth. You are the programmer. You are the conscious presence that gets to decide what thoughts to accept, which ones to reject, and which ones to transform. The mind is a servant, and when you learn to guide it, it becomes the most powerful ally you'll ever have. Too often, people hand over control of their lives to their minds. A thought appears: you're not good enough, this will never work, they don't like you, and they immediately believe it. No questioning, no resistance. The thought becomes the truth, and they act accordingly. But a thought is not a fact. It is simply a suggestion, a possibility. Some thoughts are useful, many are not. And unless you learn to filter your thoughts and consciously choose which ones to engage with, your life will be shaped by unexamined mental noise. Every time a thought enters your mind, you have a choice. You can observe it and let it pass. You can examine it and decide whether it serves you, or you can believe it blindly and let it dictate your behavior. Mastery lies in that space of choice. When you step back and say, "Interesting thought, but I don't have to believe it," you begin to take back control. You stop being a slave to the mind's every suggestion. You stop reacting out of fear, doubt, and insecurity. Instead, you start responding from a place of clarity, strength, and wisdom. Detaching from your mind doesn't mean ignoring it. It means becoming the observer rather than the victim. It means recognizing that your mind will generate all kinds of thoughts, some positive, some negative, some neutral. That's its job. But your job is to decide what to do with them. Just like you wouldn't take financial advice from a stranger on the street, you shouldn't take every thought at face value, especially when your inner voice is rooted in old pain or fear. Learn to question the source. Learn to ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this aligned with who I want to become? Training your mind to serve you instead of control you takes practice. One powerful method is meditation. When you sit in stillness and simply watch your thoughts without getting involved in them, you develop the skill of detachment. You begin to see how thoughts come and go, how they rise and fall like waves. You realize you don't have to chase every thought or act on every emotion. You can let them pass like clouds in the sky. This creates a deep sense of calm and control. You are no longer fighting your mind, you are leading it. Another important practice is self-talk. The way you speak to yourself, especially in moments of struggle or stress, shapes your internal relationship. If your mind is running wild with fear or negativity, ground it with intentional language. Remind yourself, I am in control. I choose how I respond. My thoughts do not define me. These aren't just affirmations, they are commands. And the more consistently you speak to your mind with clarity and confidence, the more obedient it becomes. Just like a muscle, the mind responds to repetition and training. Journaling is another tool to take ownership of your mental world. When thoughts are swirling in your head, putting them on paper brings order to the chaos. You can analyze, challenge, and reframe them. You begin to notice patterns, how your mind reacts to certain triggers, what stories it clings to, what fears it repeats. And through that awareness, you start to rewrite your mental narrative. You become the author, not the reader of your internal dialogue. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is moving from I feel this, so it must be true, to I'm noticing this thought or emotion, but I choose what to do next. That's the essence of mastery. That's what separates emotionally reactive people from emotionally intelligent people. The reactive person lets their mind and emotions dictate every move. The master chooses their path regardless of how the mind feels in the moment. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle. Even the most disciplined minds have moments of doubt, fear, and distraction. The difference is they don't live there. They recognize the pattern and redirect. They fall off track, but they know how to return. They don't identify with every thought, they lead their thoughts. To truly master your mind, you must also take full responsibility for your inner world. Blaming circumstances, other people, or your past gives your mind more power over you. But when you take ownership, when you say, I am responsible for my thoughts, my reactions, and my energy, you reclaim the throne. You stop waiting for life to change and start changing yourself. At its core, mental control is about alignment. Aligning your thoughts with your values. Aligning your actions with your goals. Aligning your self-talk with your truth. The more you practice this, the more your mind becomes your ally. It begins to serve you with clarity, focus, creativity, and strength. It becomes a tool for transformation rather than a source of torment. You are the master. Never forget that. Your mind is powerful, but you are more powerful. Guide it, train it, speak to it, observe it, and most importantly, never let it make decisions for you that are based on fear, old wounds, or false beliefs. Your future is too important to be left in the hands of an untamed mind. Lead it, and you'll lead your life.